Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, we got more training camp, first of all. We will get into that. Two things worth talking about. Number one, that preseason game was pretty hilarious. Yes, it's just preseason. I don't put a ton into it. Good teams lose all the time. Bad teams win, whatever. But, boy, was that fun to watch. The Lions are a very prideful team, and their first outing with their new offensive and defensive coordinators calling all the plays, and boy, did they do a bang-up job, huh? Not to mention, as much as anybody, Lions fans or whatever, want to talk about it doesn't matter, it's not that serious, go back and look at clips of your head coach and ask if you think he thinks it's serious. Because that guy was ready to have a heart attack. I mean, granted, that's just his normal disposition, but yeah, he was not having a good day. Also seems as though if there's injuries, there's going to be some serious problems, especially at quarterback, because Hendon Hooker was actually, by the way, PFF grades are officially back. So excited. Hendon Hooker was officially the lowest graded person on the offense, possibly the whole team. Let me check the defense here. No. Second lowest. And then the other quarterback, Kyle Allen, ranked 21st out of 25, so he was also one of the lowest. Pretty rough. But that was fun. Next football action we got is, today for you, I guess. Packers family night. It's not really a game anymore, but they do have some mano-a-mano type stuff going on. That's pretty fun. That will be, I believe, streamed on X, Twitter, whatever. So make sure you check that out. The only other thing I think that's pretty big news that everybody's getting pretty exercised about. Again, I will, speaking of exercise, ask everyone to exercise some caution here. Much like every time this happens, I will put in the exact same caveats. Unlikely that they leave, and if they do, certainly less than 50% they end up in Green Bay. So let's say it's like 25% they leave, and then 5% chance they end up in Green Bay, which is better than 1 in 31, but still not great. We're talking like a 1% chance here. But Diana Rossini reporting, the Micah Parsons Cowboys relationship has deteriorated to the point where the star pass rusher is considering drastic measures, which could include a trade request or even a declaration that he is severing his relationship with the team, per multiple league sources familiar with the situation. The two sides remain far apart heading into the second week of training camp and are not currently negotiating. If nothing else, it's entertaining to watch Dallas Cowboys fans just have an absolute meltdown. You almost feel sorry for them, you know. I know, I get it. I shouldn't feel that way, and I kind of don't. Only just a tiny little shred feels that way. But these poor freaking people, man, they can't catch a break. Some of the stats I've seen on them and their playoffs and their playoff wins and all that stuff are shocking and hard to believe. Because it feels like, Dallas is always a pretty good team. They're always in the playoffs. They probably have a bunch of playoff wins, been to the NFC Championship game a bunch and played a bunch and all kinds of good stuff, right? No, not so much. They hate the owner, and probably for good reason. I didn't think too low of him before. I just kind of figured he was a little bit of a goofball and probably not worse than any other owner, and I don't know, how much he actually plays a role in some of this stuff anymore. But the negotiations with the contracts, I mean, I know Cincinnati gets a real bad reputation. Dallas is, if they're not the worst, they're got to be top 5, top 2. I mean, their entire reputation is they wait way too long and end up paying way too much. And as Andrew Brandt just got done saying, typically the way that this is going to work out is that they're going to wait until September and then end up just paying him way too much money. Not to mention completely destroying your relationship with the player, with the locker room, and everything else. Now, let's talk about the Packers side of this. Let's say things do completely devolve, and the Cowboys decide they're not going to pay him and they're looking to trade him. Parsons, I will say it's not impossible. There's two sides of this. The overly optimistic, go do it, we got this. You got to recognize, again, just statistically, unlikely he leaves. And if he does, as much as we may need Micah Parsons, who else does? You think the Bears don't need him? You think the Lions don't need him to put on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson? Are you kidding me? You think the Vikings wouldn't love to have him? I mean, there's basically no team you couldn't point to and go, you don't really need a Micah Parsons. Bull crap. Even if the Packers are like, we absolutely need this guy, we want this guy, you're competing with everybody. For the overly pessimistic side, though, I will say this. The Packers, although they rarely do things, this is a kind of Packers-y thing to do. Number one, remember, he's young. Unlike Garrett, unlike the wide receiver, McLaurin, I think that's floating around out there, unlike Trey Hendrickson, unlike a lot of these other guys that are 30 plus or close to it, Micah Parsons is 26 years old. This is a long-term investment. So if you give up draft capital, it is like drafting him. So everybody thought, well, Hendrickson, why don't you just use a draft pick? That way you can guarantee that you have X, Y. Because it's only going to last 2 years and then he's gone. Best case scenario, if it even goes well. They also, once every decade or so, will invest in that one franchise transforming player. The Reggie Whites or the Charles Woodsons or whatever. So it's not outside of the Packers playbook to do something like this. It's just not. Even with Rashawn and Van Ness being first-round picks that are both young to relatively young, I still don't think that would make this disqualifying. So it's one step at a time. I have a feeling this Rossini report is posturing probably from the player's agent, and it's not actually that big a news. Somebody's out there, like it says, they're not even negotiating. Somebody is trying to kick this thing into action. Dallas Cowboys probably playing hardball, stepping away from the table, saying, fine, screw you. So what does Micah Parsons' agent do? Runs to the media, Diana Rossini, and is like, tell them that we are going to demand a trade pretty soon, in hopes that it's going to have Dallas rushing back to the table. That's probably what's happening. But again, not impossible that it doesn't work out. And if it doesn't work out, it's not impossible that he ends up coming to Green Bay. He's got a lot of good friendships with people in Green Bay. I think it would be a destination that he would appreciate, but I'm not going to hype it beyond that. All right. Let's get into at least the press conference here. Packers coach Matt LaFleur said wide receiver Jaden Reed's foot was bothering him, something with his cleats, which is why he dropped out of practice yesterday. Today will be a lighter day with family night tomorrow and some injuries piling up. On Nazir Stackhouse, this is the quote of the day. He's earning more and more opportunities. I think at some point we're going to have to see him get in there versus our number one offense. That is I don't want to overstate it, but again, it's odd to have everybody kind of just pile on one guy and be like, that's my guy. To have that and the guys getting reviews like this after a handful of training camp practices, it's starting to just feel meant to be, you know. Travis Glover will not practice today. Rasheed Walker is not practicing today. Looks like Aaron Mosby is not practicing. Head coach Matt LaFleur said today's limited practice with light pads. Packers not participating today via Schneidman, Nate Hobbs knee, Travis Glover shoulder, Kamal Hadden hip, Jaden Reed toe, Aaron Mosby groin, Rasheed Walker groin, Sam Brown ankle, Dontavian Wicks calf. With Hobbs out dealing with the knee injury, Bo Melton getting some run with the ones during walkthrough. So I'll tell you what, since it's about to get kicked off here and it's a short practice anyways, let's take our first break right here and we'll be right back. Romeo Doubs off to the side, getting the fans going with a Go Pack Go chant. By the way, Matthew Golden's birthday. Happy birthday to Matthew Golden. Fans in the stands sang happy birthday in unison to Matthew Golden, who turned 22, his number. Doing some red zone work, just quarterbacks and receivers. Nice pass to Jaden Reed back of the end zone. And then there's this play here that's been making the rounds. Jordan Love to Romeo Doubs in, there's a couple different slow motion videos, but one of them is a nice one-handed catch by Romeo Doubs. I was talking on Packernet After Dark about how, obviously Golden is shining with his hands, but it's not going to be so easy as to just say he has the best hands on the team, because Romeo Doubs does some pretty fantastic stuff. And actually, the one-handed one was from Malik. The pass was. Oh my goodness, I love this so much. Matthew Golden is so absolutely slick. So he's running just an out route in the end zone, identifies the ball is behind him, and is just the body control to just very easily just kind of hit the brakes, do a little spin, nice easy catch, 2 feet down. I mean, it just looks so easy. Some of this stuff you kind of panic. One of the greatest things about football players, I always talk about, making things look easy, but one of the ways that some guys can make it look easy, and you can see it in wide receivers, is a really fast processor. He turned, and his brain was able to identify, this ball is not where I thought it was going to be. And for a lot of people, there's just this sort of panic. Like, oh, you don't know what to do with your feet, you don't know what to do, so you kind of like stop and do all these weird things. He just immediately, I wish sometimes I could just put a video on the podcast so you could just see what I'm talking about, but it just looks so smooth and so easy. Just kind of planted to hit the e-brake, immediately jumps, little spin up in the air, easy grab like it's nothing, and, a full 360. Comes back, lands facing the direction he was running, gets his feet in bounds, nice, and like it was just the easiest thing in the world. Injury update, by the way, on Quinnen Williams for the Jets. He's going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks. Not exactly sure what, but it looks like it's a recurring injury, it says. Monk is in for Banks at left guard today. Paul Brettel says about the Stackhouse thing, first team portion, Stackhouse got a few snaps against the first team offense. Reed is out there doing 11 on 11, so much for that whole injury thing for him. He seems to be fine. Spofford says wide receiver Jaden Reed back in 11 on 11 after dropping out yesterday as expected. Morgan at left tackle for Walker. Valentine at outside corner for Hobbs on the first unit. Love's pass starts with off-schedule flip middle to Musgrave, then bullet downfield to Doubs on a stop route. So again, we're kicking right off with Musgrave. By the way, Andy Herman is not there today, so some of the more clean, here's the entire offense and defense type stuff, probably not going to get that. Micah Robinson getting 2 reps opposite Melton with Hobbs and Haddon out today. Really nice rep from Warren Brinson to flush Willis out of the pocket. Had to let up because of the red jersey, but good chance he would have had the sack. Again, Brinson, I think yesterday was the first time we started to hear some positive notes about him. This makes 2 days in a row. Reed just got hit and caught the deflection on his back. That sounds impressive. I don't know I fully understand it, but sounds crazy. Foot, Jaden Reed don't need no stinking foot. Skies to make an impressive catch from Tyler Elgersma. Schneidman says so much for Jaden Reed not practicing. He might have just made the catch of camp in 11 on 11. Went up for a jump ball between 2 DBs. Ball popped up. Reed fell on his back, and he secured the ball lying on the ground. Gotcha. Now I kind of understand. Reed makes a circus catch in traffic, grabbing the deflected pass as he falls to the ground. Gets a big cheer from Nitschke Field crowd for that one. Kyle Malzahn says Jordan Love looking real sharp in team period today. Double play action from Love, then quickly sets his feet and fires to Golden on a crosser, well executed. Nagler says Matthew Golden is effing legit. Keep those notes coming, please. Eversole with a couple of plays in a row here. Packers highlights in team. Love hits Musgrave for about 10 on a short crosser off play action. Doubs sits down in the zone over the middle. Love finds him for 20 in front of Bullard. Willis, touch pass over the linebacker, complete to Fitzpatrick. Sliding catch on the sideline. Love to Matthew Golden on a crossing route past the sticks. Good coverage, but it was a dart on the money. Another nice play for the now 22-year-old wearing 22. We just saw why Packers think Savion Williams can be so intriguing in the offense. First time, I believe, Matt LaFleur called a play for Savion in motion, juked the whole defense out while Williams was down the sideline already. So much versatility. It's pretty exciting. I said before, I don't want him to just be that guy, but things are getting off to such a slow start for him. If he can kind of carve out that role for now, I'm fine with that. Running back Emmanuel Wilson is down after being attended to after falling awkwardly trying to make a catch downfield. We can't be down him as well. Oh no, Jordan Love just rolled out, saw Emmanuel Wilson wide open in the end zone. Love overthrew Wilson. Wilson leaped for the ball that was out of reach, came down, and is in a ton of pain. Wilson is walking off with trainers. Did not look good by his body language. Valuable backup Emmanuel Wilson is down after trying to catch a pass in the red zone. Love and Jacobs are there to check on him. He's on his feet. Round of applause from the fans. Gets a pat on the head by Melton as he walks off with trainers. Apparently the teammates at one point were on a knee, which is always scary. Anthony Belton got a handful of reps with the ones at left tackle. Don't know if he did good or not, but I'm just happy to hear it. Emmanuel Wilson is going to head into the Hudson Center. Really nice hands from Luke Musgrave, snatching a fastball from Malik Willis at the goal line for a touchdown on 3rd and goal from the 6. So Musgrave having, again, just like some of the other guys, they're quiet, and all of a sudden something seems to be clicking a little bit here. To quote Mike McCarthy, Luke Musgrave is stacking success, another strong practice after a good performance yesterday. Malik Willis has gotten the defensive line to bite a few times on red zone reads, but Barron Sorrell will not be fooled. Would have been a big tackle for a loss. Love to hear it. Ryan Wood says Packers rookie Barron Sorrell gets a sack on Malik Willis, and Rashawn Gary celebrates with him after the play. Good burst into the backfield. Good coverage from Kalen King to break up a zone fade for Heath. Couple different notes from Spofford. Second straight productive practice for tight end Luke Musgrave. Just caught a short touchdown pass from Willis after an earlier catch from Love. Rookie defensive lineman Barron Sorrell also showing up again, getting into the backfield to disrupt Willis, RPO. Willis then throws a dart to Hicks at the front of the pylon for a touchdown. Nice low throw and catch away from the defender. Good box by Romeo Doubs versus Valentine for a touchdown at the back of the end zone. Good touch by Love, too. Doubs has had a strong week. Doubs just boxed out Valentine in the end zone on a laser from Jordan Love for a touchdown. Lets out a Tarzan yell from his knees in celebration. Fitzpatrick getting some work with the ones in red zone. Just caught a touchdown from Love. Eversol with a little list here says Jordan Love threw 3 straight touchdown passes in red zone. Love to Romeo in the end zone, just out-muscled CV at the catch point for a touchdown. Doubs has had a strong camp. Love touchdown to Heath on an out to the right. Love rolls left, hits Fitzpatrick for a touchdown. And it looks like we're done already. Practice 8 is complete. Up next, family night tomorrow. Blockbuster deal. The NFL and ESPN have reached an agreement that gives ESPN access to RedZone, NFL Network, 7 more regular season games, fantasy football rights, and more in exchange for equity in ESPN potentially worth billions. That's pretty freaking crazy, huh? So what does that mean for RedZone? Does that mean I can cancel Hulu because I have an ESPN subscription? I don't know things. Interesting though. We'll see what ESPN does with that. I doubt a ton, but whatever. I'm interested to see what that means for RedZone though, as an additional package. I think it's going to be included in the ESPN thing, which is $29.99 a month. Trying to do some quick sleuthing here. There's an article already up by The Athletic. The agreement coincides with ESPN's forthcoming direct-to-consumer service that will formally launch in the next few weeks. The service, which will cost $29.99 a month, will allow subscribers to bypass cable or satellite providers to watch all ESPN programming, including live games through ESPN's app. Viewers who already have access to ESPN through cable, satellite, or bundle streaming TV services will be able to watch ESPN through the app, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure I have. It's probably through the whole Disney. Actually, I think Hulu's a part of that bundle. Hulu, Disney, ESPN, it's all one thing. It better be included. I ain't paying for more than that bullcrap. But if you bought RedZone previously through Hulu, it was $87 a month. Sling, $51 to $70, YouTube $84, Fubo $103 a month. So that would be a pretty cheap option to be able to get it. ESPN's investment should also improve NFL Network's content quality. I guess the downside is if you don't have access to ESPN, you're probably going to want to get it because a lot of NFL stuff's going to run through that. The good news is if you have it, a lot more stuff's going to run through that. So it's less that you have to, I guess, buy. However, the regulatory approval process could take 9 to 12 months, so changes won't happen immediately. Also, uncertainty about how RedZone will be priced. Okay, so maybe it won't even be a this year thing. Oh, that sucks. Whatever. All right, why don't we go backwards a little bit here? There were a couple locker room deals, press conference deals that were a couple days ago. There's a couple back-to-back questions to Jordan Love about Matthew Golden. I want to play through that. This is just kind of the one particular play that was a pass to Golden.
I think they were in man coverage, and MG was on the backside. They did a good job, guarding our front side concept, but just worked back, and he ran a double move, and he did a really good job selling it. It's a play that we actually ran yesterday, a similar play, and I think this one he did a much better job just selling it, committing to the first route before he broke out, and I think that's what helped get him open. And those are the easy ones. You kind of just lob it up there for him, let him go finish it. But he's been doing some really good things.
On the go route in the 1v1, it looked like 24 was all over. When you let that ball go, were you thinking, like, is there any chance he's going to catch this with the way the coverage was? What do you think about that adjustment?
No, so, MG was running a go ball on CV, and I think CV did a really good job, kind of pushing him to the sideline, not giving me too much room to throw it. At first when I let it go, I was like, oh, man, I missed it too far inside. On those balls, you want to give him a chance outside. But, I didn't think there was a chance. I was like, oh, CV's going to pick this one. And MG did a really good job, be able to come back, track the ball inside, and go up and high point that ball. So, I think that's one of his specialties that I've seen so far is just the aggressiveness in his hands and always going up there and trying to high point the ball. And he's got very strong hands, and he's able to go up and, compete for that ball. So I think that's one of those things that's going to separate him.
Have you seen enough of him yet? I know it's 1 week in camp, like he's making plays every day. Have you seen enough to start to build some expectations for what you can give you this season?
Oh, definitely. I think just him coming in here, the way he's putting the work so far, as a rookie, it's going to be a process. It always is. Of just coming in, learning the playbook, understanding the scheme. There's going to be plays you mess up. There's going to be plays you bust. There's going to be plays you kind of run the route the wrong way. So there's just opportunities to learn. But I think for him, he's been doing a great job. He's been in the book, and he's been getting more comfortable with knowing where he needs to be. So let's just keep building that. But I think the playmaking ability is there. You see that. When the ball's in the air, he's going to go get it and make that play. So let's just continue to hone in on the little details and just keep getting better each day.
So nothing earth-shattering there, but it is pretty great to hear Jordan kind of echo a lot of what we've all been saying and what we've all been seeing as far as, first of all, just the hands, the growth, the reliability. He throws in the caveat about, he's a rookie, he's going to make some mistakes, et cetera, kind of tempering those expectations for the sake of Matthew Golden a little bit. But I don't think any of this is him lying. I think he's genuinely, when he's sitting back going, oh, man, yeah. The fact that he threw up a bad ball, which, hilariously enough, he throws up a bad ball and thinks, crap, that's a pick. I messed that up. What was it I said going into the draft season? We may have to find guys that can bail out Jordan, because I don't know that Jordan's ever going to be top of the leaderboard in accuracy. There's going to be some off-target throws. Again, going back to last year, there was so much, I was on the side of Jordan's got to put that ball in a better spot. A lot of other people saw it as a receiver, you got to make that catch. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The bottom line is, based on where we're at, Jordan's not throwing good enough balls for the guys that we have to be able to make these catches. Now, I still hope that improves, but the point is, we got to have guys that can dig out some balls here and there, that can, occasionally when it's an underthrown, overthrown, to inside, behind you, above you, beneath you, whatever, to be able to dig those out. And it seems like that's exactly what the Packers went and got with Matthew Golden. Also had the coaches speaking, Rich Bisaccia. I'm not going to play a lot of this, but just kind of going through some of it. He downplays a little bit the amazing kicker that we have. He did mention something about Isaiah Simmons. I kind of feel like we may have talked about this before. I don't remember if he had mentioned this, but the question was, what have you seen in Isaiah Simmons on special teams and where can he help? And he says, I recall Simmons blocking a field goal for a touchdown with the Giants and noted his extreme athleticism, size, and speed. Team is asking him to do new things and is trying to put him in a position to help in all four phases of the kicking game. I have an interesting note for a guy that has really shown out. One of the more underrated storylines, maybe. There's several, maybe underrated is the wrong way to put it, just impressing. I mean, for me, Bo Melton is one of them. Obviously, a lot of people were on that train to begin with. Not saying he's a superstar, but he's went from I don't think he's going to make the team to I think he's going to make the team. Matthew Golden, not necessarily a shock, but I'm pleased. He's kind of on the upper end of what could be expected. Van Ness has been obviously incredible. I think Nate Hobbs has been a pleasant surprise. Not that he's been perfect, but, there's kind of under the radar. Nobody's really excited, and he's come in and he's ready to rock and roll. But, bringing in Isaiah Simmons, actually, Mecole Hardman's, those two are probably the most similar. Mecole Hardman has had more success. He's been a decent player for different teams, just kind of a how do we use him. He started off, like I mentioned before, as a little bit more of a speed guy, deep thready, whatever, and then Kansas City converted him to a more gadget role type of guy. Always been a pretty solid special teamer, but he's come in and if I were to rank the guys, I wouldn't put him up with Dobbs at this point. I wouldn't put him with Reed. Could he possibly be on the level of Dontavian Wicks? Possibly. Obviously very different skill sets, but in terms of like pecking order, with Watson being out, he's ahead of Savion Williams. I would say he's ahead of Malik Heath. As far as tiers, I would hope it's Matthew Golden kind of by himself. Then you got I'm going to put Dobbs and Jaden Reed on the same tier. I don't feel it as much with Jaden, but I know it's real. I think he just kind of ended poorly, so my mind is more geared toward how he ended the season last year. But yeah, the way things are going, maybe Dobbs and Jaden on the next tier, and then you got Mecole probably a step ahead of Dontavian Wicks. Doesn't have to stay that way, but again, as far as being impressive, but Isaiah Simmons, I had no... again, obviously he's got athleticism for days. There's all kinds of these guys, first round to early first round, that just never panned out. They go to a team and it's, oh my goodness, they're going to be so good. When Quay comes back, that's going to be the biggest question. And I understand that there's different roles, and I don't know exactly, Mike linebacker, outside, or weak side, or whatever. But the real question to me is going to be, Quay and Edgerrin are locked in. Is Isaiah Simmons legitimately challenging Isaiah McDuffie for that third spot? Because I don't think Tyron Hopper is up there yet. That's going to be a really interesting storyline. And then on top of that, you got Rich Bisaccia saying this guy is a freak athlete that can help a ton on special teams. It's pretty encouraging. Talking about Bo Melton, he called Melton 16 green. I don't know what the heck that means. But talked about his speed. He's got a great attitude, willing to do anything asked of him, which is probably why, again, when they switched his position, I really got the feeling this is sort of a grace thing where it's like we love his athleticism and all that. We also love him as a person and want him on this team. It just kind of had that feel. I think the coaches just love Bo Melton, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure he stays. But he actually went on to say that he believes Melton is on track to become an elite special teams player and is already the ultimate team player. So, you can borderline put that in permanent marker. That dude's not going anywhere. Talking about Melton as a possible punt returner, said he has a tremendous skill set, was a backup punt returner at Texas, also returned kicks. Talking about Hardman, he said Hardman was acquired for a reason. He has a lot of experience, both in punts and kicks, has Super Bowl rings. He said Hardman has been a surprise in camp. He has come back in great physical condition and has been a help to him personally. Talking about Keyshawn Nixon, said they've been together now for 7 years. He said he's consistently maturing, believes there's never a roof or a ceiling on Keyshawn because he has a mindset he can do anything, which is kind of fair. Like we've talked about before, this guy is just a special teamer that ended up as a starting corner, possibly our CB1 right now, depending on how the Packers view it. Wouldn't be my view, but potentially that's where they see him. And then again, talking about the physicality, he said the physical approach was a vision that started with Coach LaFleur after reviewing last season. They'd rather have to pull back than to push. He said that after a chippy practice, Coach LaFleur let the team know where the line was and what the next practice should look like. I was thinking about this today, that there's probably, again, LaFleur was pissed at Rasheed Walker for some of the physicality stuff, and he was obviously really pissed at Nate Hobbs when he saw Marshawn go down. I genuinely feel like maybe all coaches, but certainly some coaches, you got the guy in Detroit, you got Matt LaFleur, you got some guys like that. I think if there was no fighting, no chippiness, I think they'd be a little worried at least, if not upset. In other words, it's a weird thing where you want guys to do what you say, right? Obviously, fighting is not allowed, and chippiness is not, there's a line and all that stuff. But if everybody kind of just goes about it and they just go through practice and there's got to be a feeling of like, dude, somebody's got to throw a punch or something. This is ridiculous. And when it happens, you kind of fire off, and, hey, that's enough, you scold them and everything else, but at the same time, you're kind of like, heck yeah, bro. Got a bunch of freaking killers here. Adam Stenovich, offensive coordinator, also spoke, talking about Malik Willis. They were saying the focus on him is giving him the opportunity to learn the offense from the ground up, working on his reads and footwork to ensure he's on time with everything. That is kind of a funny thing. Everything we saw about Malik last year was a guy coming in, knows nothing about the offense, and Matt LaFleur just stitches something together that kind of works for him, and he makes it work, and that was it. So now we've got to kind of spend the year, the offseason, all this stuff, getting Willis, like you said, from the ground up. And I don't know if that's better or worse. Maybe Willis is always just going to be the guy where Matt LaFleur is going to have to stitch together stuff like that if you're going to make it work. Or maybe he just gets a lot better, which could be scary. Talking about where the difference is between them. Biggest difference is knowledge of the entire offense. I mean, that's kind of obvious. He came in with 0. He obviously has more than 0 now. But he did say last year the focus was on what he liked to do. Now he's learning things, as far as Matt LaFleur's offense. Again, that could be a positive or negative. Matt LaFleur did a great job of tailoring an offense to what Malik does well. Can Malik be a good Matt LaFleur quarterback? It's a secondary question. Talking about Matthew Golden, said he's a really hardworking guy, very diligent. Compared him to guys like Christian and Romeo. Talking about Savion Williams, just says he hasn't really had a chance to get, a firm grasp on him yet. There's been a lot of injuries and whatnot, but said the plan is to be patient with him, which, again, is just more signals to what I kind of assumed anyways, which is we're looking at probably a redshirt year. Talking about Jordan Morgan, he says he's liked what he's seen from Jordan so far. Noted Jordan is competing at both tackle and guard and looking, quote-unquote, pretty solid. Don't know what to make of that. Did say now that Elton is back, what is the plan for Jordan's opportunities? In other words, now that the offensive line is kind of, he's not playing fill-in, where do you want him? It did say they're going to work him in at left tackle as much as possible to create competition on the left side, as he was previously limited to play guard due to other injuries. So kind of talking about, he was playing right guard before. That was kind of out of necessity. Putting him where we want him competing at left tackle, which, again, is kind of what I thought was going to happen. But then when it comes to Belton, the question is, what is the plan with Belton? Will he play tackle or guard? The plan is to keep Belton at tackle for now. He's a big guy with good feet who has the ability to play tackle in the NFL. So we have too many tackles, right? Zach Tom for sure is a tackle. Seems to me there's a competition between Rasheed and Morgan, where Rasheed seems to be the odds-on favorite. Belton is then what, our number 4 tackle? That just seems crazy to me. We got a first-round pick backup and a second-round pick backup. I mean, we can play the whole it's a good problem to have game, but I'm sorry, that's a misallocation of resources. It's not that there's no value in a number 3 tackle, but it's pretty low as compared to any starting position. And then a number 4 tackle? I don't even know. I don't know. We'll let it play out. We'll see how it goes, but this is just kind of crazy to me. What do you want to see from Luke Musgrave? Take a step forward in the run game, so obviously blocking, that's never going to be a strong suit, but at the end of the day, worth considering. He's not going to get a ton of time on the field if he can't do it. Again, with the physicality, I'm always kind of surprised with the answers. Question was there an offseason feeling the team needed to be more physical? And he just definitively says yes. After getting to the playoffs, you see where you need to improve. They decided to focus on being the most physical football team on the field, and I appreciate that. But, they're being very open about that being a prime focus, and I absolutely appreciate that. Have you seen enough from Sean Ryan to say he's comfortably locked up the right guard spot? He says none of the offensive linemen have locked up their job, which is a lie. I'm sorry, it just is. And then as far as the defensive coordinator, talking about Isaiah Simmons, he says it's still early, still focused on teaching him one position, linebacker. He's impressed with his physicality, his understanding of the defense, great physical tools. Says the coach's job is to develop them in their scheme and maximize their abilities. What's been the difference with Lucas Van Ness this camp? He believes Van Ness is a year older and has better understanding of his position in the scheme. He's seen improvement in his hand usage, pass rush tools, and counter moves, crediting Van Ness's hard work this offseason. Let's fingers crossed. And that's a big one. I mean, if there's any one person you could point at and say, I need this person to take a big step, not including guys that have already done it, but in terms of taking a step, I mean, there's nobody on Van Ness's level that I can think of. How much the defense evolved? Last year, they were still figuring out their identity. This year, they have strong foundation and have already installed much of their playbook. He said their install from last year to this year looks so different. You would think we have a new defensive coordinator, he says. Gives them a bigger inventory of plays, allows them to be more strategic about what they use early in the season versus what they save for later. Still believes the defense needs to continue to evolve because opponents will figure them out. That's just natural NFL stuff. Describes Brenton Cox as physical, strong, and tough guy who's very disruptive. Said he's been hard to block in practice. Coaches are focused on developing him to be even better. The message regarding forced fumbles said that while the team is good at taking the ball away last year, they didn't force enough fumbles. The number one emphasis this training camp is to play with a high level of physicality and attack the football. He wants the team to lead the league in forced fumbles. I love that. Apparently the goal is 43. That seems insanely high. Early observations on Nate Hobbs. He loves physicality and toughness, describes Hobbs as strong and competitive player who brings an edge. Notes that Hobbs' strong hands and lower body allow him to be effective at the line of scrimmage, which is a key trait for the defense. Final note before we get out of here. There's been a lot of hubbub over the last hour or so that I can see regarding Micah Parsons. I didn't read it. He put out like this big long note. It was like 3 pages. I kind of skimmed it and was like, yeah, dude, I'm not reading all that. Long story short, he has officially requested a trade. Now, you could say it's a pretty big step toward, if you're talking about the Packers, him coming to the Packers, this would be a big first step. But we're still a very, very far ways away. Not only because, again, we're competing with the rest of the league, but if you had to pick a team that he's going to play with in 2025, Dallas is still number one. More often than not, if you had to pick a team in this situation, and we saw it already this year with people that request trades. Myles Garrett requested a trade. Where is he playing this year? With the Browns. So I did a little bit of sleuthing to see kind of where the odds are. By far, odds-on favorite are still the Dallas Cowboys. Packers are not even, you'd think, well, they got all this relationship with whatever, so we've got to be next on the list, and Gutekunst needs to get this done, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry to tell you, we are not even close to being top of the list. Dallas Cowboys are at minus 300. The next best odds are the Eagles and Patriots at plus 1,000. The Chargers at plus 1,500. The Cardinals and 49ers at plus 1,600. The Rams at plus 1,800. The Seahawks are at plus 3,000, which is around where the Packers are. I don't have the list beyond that other than to say the Packers are on that tier. Now, I don't know how much this may move with this announcement. I did look into it afterwards, so this probably takes in some of that. The market may continue to move, but it isn't going to move much, and the plus 3,000 odds put the Packers at 3%. So again, what's more than likely going to happen is he will not end up a Green Bay Packer, and many people will find that as a reason to say that somebody failed. I'm sorry, but if you have a 97% chance of failing and then fail, I'm not sure that is the failure of the century. So let's just take it one step at a time. This is, again, likely posturing. There were some quotes in there about, I don't want to be here anymore, whatever. strong language. I get that. We'll see. The next step is we need to find out that Dallas is actually willing to trade him, and then it's a question of how do we end up beating out teams with better odds than us, and presumably they have better odds for a multitude of reasons, right? This is Vegas, so they're using all these, whatever they're using, need, ability, desire, willingness. You know, if a team's got 2 first-round picks next year or a high pick next year, and that's what you're competing with. So, bottom line, don't start doing backflips yet. Until you see him in a Packers jersey, probably not going to happen. All right, that's going to be it. I'm going to head out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.